since I've done a live stream and had a special guest on. So this is somewhat of a comeback interview, you could say. We have a very special creator in the house you may have met before from way back in the day when she used to come on and whoops, I've got some echo happening. Back when we were making Kozor, Ali would join us on the streams that we were doing for it back then and engage us in all sorts of different kinds of interesting conversation. But now she's here. It's the other way around. We finished off Kozor. Now she has her own book, Egg Beater, which she's been in the process of creating for a fair while now. And we're going to hear all about what its origins is, the seed of Egg Beater, how it all began, how it came about, why it came about. And Ali is going to give us the full lowdown on all of it. So welcome, Ali. Thanks so much for being here with me today. It is a long time coming and it should have happened sooner, but I'm glad that you finally made it.
Thank you. That was a lovely intro, and you've gotten so much better.
Oh, really? I felt like it was long-winded, as usual. I don't feel like I've learned a thing.
It was long, but it was still, it covered everything. It was, you didn't ramble. Long, but concise. But
that's probably going to happen.
Who am I? Who am I to talk? I don't know what I'm ever saying. But yeah, I'm Ali, and it's true. I don't remember how or why, but when you guys were doing like Barton Bros After Dark, like every other night, it was just like, hey, let's get on and talk about horrible things for some reason, and we did. And I'm sorry.
No, why are you apologizing? They are fun shows. They were fun shows, and I want to do more of them again over on the Barton Bros Studios channel. They'll be coming out, so be sure to check out that channel and subscribe. I want to do a reboot of the Barton Bros show and get very interesting guests on there, like Ali and the other wonderful friends that we've made along the way throughout this comic creating journey. Because I just think that man, we traveled into some areas of topic during those streams. That's for sure. And I feel like real conversations like that is exactly what we need, what the audience needs. The realness, the rawness.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I need them. Surface level interviews, they feel a little bit contrived sometimes. I like to get to the yolk of it, the very
yolk.
core. Yeah.
Crack it open.
I like to crack it open. That's right. Whip up some entertainment. It didn't really work, did it? I tried my best, Ali. Anyway.
No, it worked. It was great.
Barton Bros show will come back. This is on the How to Draw Comics channel, of course. Many subscribers who discovered the Barton Bros channel are also already subscribed here. But this is a little bit more of, I guess, a formal channel. We got very crazy on the Barton Bros show at some points, talking about all sorts of things, conspiracy theories and things way outside the realm of comic books. But that was... I mean, that's what we find relatable, right? We're more than just our comics, and so are our readers. So that's why I love those conversations. I told you it wouldn't take me long to start rambling. But you're here on How to Draw Comics, and it hasn't happened in a while. But now you're back. How's it feel?
I'm back from outer space. It feels...
You're back with a comic book, too.
I am. Well... I'm back with a funded campaign. Obviously, the comic isn't printed yet and all that stuff. But it's true. I'm farther along than I was when we first came in, and I was just like, "Hey guys, I promise I have a thing I'm doing."
You were really excited about it too. You couldn't stop talking about Egg Beater for months and months, maybe, who knows, an entire year before you actually launched a campaign for it. So it was in the making for quite some time. You had this
That's true.
idea floating around inside your head that you'd taken action on, you'd gotten an artist on board and started putting together this excellent book. Why did you feel the need to create Egg Beater? And what is Egg Beater in the first place? Because people are probably sitting there, they're picturing an actual egg beater inside their head right now. And they're like, I don't know if I want to read a story about an egg beater. But Egg Beater, your comic, is much more than just that.
It's true. So, Egg Beater, my comic, is about a man who has nothing else to lose because he's lost everything. Whoa, and there it is.
There he is. Scary looking fellow. Keep talking.
Mean, you should only be afraid of him if you're a bad guy, really. But yeah, he's lost everything, including his mind. And now he is out for revenge against the gang that was extorting him, that has murdered his whole family and burned his livelihood to the ground. Now he's out for blood, as it were, to kill his baker's dozen. And on the way, there will be puns, there will be dad jokes, and poignancy.
Poignancy? I don't even know what that word means.
Like being poignant.
Poignant. I like it. I'm going to start using it. I like using words, even when I don't know what they mean. Makes me feel smart. But
poignant is like regret, when something makes you feel like sad or regretful.
Right. I see. So Egg Beater, he's obviously a messed up looking dude. What happened to him? I feel like once upon a time he was a handsome fellow. But I'm looking at an illustration of him right now and he's all disfigured and messed up.
He was a handsome fellow. I think I have a page that I could probably bring up.
Oh, really? Feel free to share it.
So I could show you part of what he used to look like.
Oh, I'd love to see Egg Beater before he... whatever the heck happened to him. He looks like he fell into a vat of acid and narrowly escaped or something like that. Or is he a burns victim? Is that what's happened to him?
Yes, he had a bunch of donut oil, boiling donut oil poured over him.
Ouch.
So and when you get a burn like that, it kind of like melts, your skin, your whole face down. So, but he did look pretty cool. See, the problem is I can only show you an mostly unfinished page, but that is because that's what I have of that one page. But I can show you.
That's okay.
Maybe. I'll show you a close-up of an unfinished page.
Works in progress are the most fun. By the way, I want to take a quick moment here to just say a quick hello to the chat. It's so wonderful to see you all again. We appreciate you tuning in, your support on these wonderful comic book projects. That's what nourishes this community and keeps these unique and interesting comics coming out. You want a little bit different from Superman and Batman and the typical superheroes that you see out there in the mainstream? Well, there's a new wave of independent comic book creators just like Ali here who are taking their ideas, creating comics out of them, and making them available. It's order on demand, baby. Put in your pre-order and she's making it for you right now. And hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer.
Hopefully not. It's about halfway done being drawn, and then I'm doing the lettering. So, and the printer is in my town, so it will be super easy to make sure that nothing goes wrong with printing.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, you want a good final end product at the end of the day. one that people are satisfied with, that meets their expectations, because anyone who backs Egg Beater is going to be excited to get it. They're going to be pumped. They're going to be looking forward to the nightmares that lay within these pages. So what are we looking at here, Ali?
So this is, and I haven't shown this on anything ever before. So this is a first.
An
This is Egg
exclusive.
Beater pre, like, well, right before all the horrible things happened. It's an unfinished Egg Beater, but this is him. Technically, he's in bed with his wife, and he hears the ding ding. This is just where the text will go. This isn't the final text. The sound effect rather. He hears this ding ding of his front door. You know, in like shops, you open the door, and it does that. That is like a trigger where he's like, "What was that?" Because they're in bed, and all of a sudden he hears it, and that's not supposed to happen. It wakes him up. So that is this panel. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" And you can see he's I mean, I'm not a fan of butt chins, but you know, he's a formidable, good-looking fellow. He's
He is a handsome fellow.
he's a middle-aged dude with hair. He's Hungarian. He is from Hungary. Because,
the puns are galore in this book.
yeah. That was actually all my artist. He wanted to do like a sign that said like "Welcome to the kitchen" or something, but he didn't want it to be in English. So he was like, "Where's he from? I want to put it in whatever language that is." And I was just like, "He's from Hungary."
I love it.
So he is. Oh my gosh, your chat is going crazy, but I
I
can
know.
only see it in YouTube.
Oh, really? You
Mo's
can't see
there.
it here? Oh.
No, I can't see it in the
Look, I
streaming
can
thing.
turn on the chat overlay here. If we want to get the chat up.
Does he have a fear of donuts? No. But he's gonna make the bad guys go nuts. Nah.
Oh, yeah, that's what we like to hear. I'm sure he's going to do more than that to the bad guys. What does he do to the baddies, to those who cross him?
Well, let me close that quick. So he has created these weapons using implements of his former trade, which is this industrial sized egg beater that
Ouch.
you know,
There it
like
is.
a mixer. Yep. But he soldered razor blades onto it so that he can use it for killing.
So it's a custom-made egg beater.
Yeah.
I like it.
And
it's
so
very creative. Very creative. Original.
It was an accident that I came up with it, but I've not heard anyone say that it feels boring, that's for sure. But I thought he needs more, you know, he needs that silhouette. So I gave him the two rolling pins, metal rolling pins that he dual wields, you know, on his back in the samurai style.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a thing that samurai originated, but that's what I thought of when I had him put him on there. So
I feel like you've been coming up with ideas like this since you were a kid.
You would be correct. Yes.
And eventually one of them made it to the surface and you felt like it needed to be a comic book. Why did you pick a comic book as the vehicle to tell your nightmarish tales?
Well, to tell the truth, it was kind of a last resort because it started out as I wanted to make it a movie. You know, super low budget indie movie with the like crazy low budget gross horror effects and stuff, and I was going to do all of that myself, and I had a director lined up. I had a film script written. I had, you know, I was scouting locations. I had actors that I was talking to, but it was just going to be too much money. I mean, no matter what I did, even just the bare minimum of stuff, it was just going to be too much money. So I decided, well, I need to get it out there. It needs to happen. I talked to Hart Fisher, who is kind of like an indie comics, like he was pre-Comics Gate kind of guy, but
Oh
he
yeah.
also is into like horror and stuff too. I had him on my channel. I talked to him and he said, well, if you make this as a comic book, send it to me and I will read it. And I was just like, now I have to make it as a comic book. So I set all the wheels in motion to make it into a comic book. And what that meant was learning how to translate the film script from film to comic, which meant I did do work. I read books. I watched videos from people who did that. And then I just used common sense, and what I liked and what I didn't like.
So you had a movie script created for Egg Beater.
Hmm.
Cool. And
I mean,
this
I still
was
have
this is
it.
going to actually be a movie. And I guess creating a comic book for it isn't such a bad idea because a comic book isn't unlike a storyboard, and it allows you to get the kind of scenes that you've got in mind down onto the page, figure out what order they're going to go in, how they're going to play out. It's almost hitting two birds with one stone in that way. You're getting a comic book, but you're also getting the storyboard of the potential movie that you just never know. Maybe something will come of this comic book. People will read it. It'll be a hit, and a movie will eventuate from it.
Um,
Is that what you're hoping?
that would be cool, but I mean, really, I just want people to like it, to read it and enjoy themselves. Um,
Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Sorry.
okay. Uh, on that note, though, the problem, just so the chat knows, the problem with that would be I wouldn't want anyone who liked Egg Beater to feel slighted in any way if a movie were to eventuate because of
I apologize for
something.
that.
That's okay. Because if something changed, I know that everyone would hate it. They would be like, why would you change this about Egg Beater? Egg Beater is Egg Beater. So the issue would be making sure that I had full creative control. Because I wouldn't want some studio to make it woke, obviously, or to change something. I would want to make sure the people who are involved in the comic got what they needed from it. So, it's a little bit different at this point. There would have to be a lot that happened. Yeah, Mo said, why is Egg Beater a black lesbian with the side of her head shaved? Yeah, that would be a problem. Does he smell like donuts? He smells like, without giving it away, he kind of just smells like dough and burned flesh.
Wow. A mix of tasty but disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's that's a good description of everything that is Egg Beater.
It does sound like it would be a good book. I mean, sorry, a good movie, as well as a good book. You know, I've always entertained the idea of someday creating my own movie as well. I've probably said it before to you throughout one of the many conversations we've had. The idea of making movies is something which is very appealing to me. And it's probably why I've found myself indulging in comic books a as a conduit to present my stories to the world and convey, to show what it is that I want to show throughout those narratives. But movies are so expensive to create, and they require a lot of coordination, unfortunately, it's almost impossible to do them all on your own. You've got to get different people involved who are specializing in certain areas of the film that need them, lighting specialists, cameramen, editors, etc. But
Yep.
in some ways, a comic book isn't unlike that either. You've still got inkers and colorists and pencilers and editors in a comic book. Now, you are, in fact, an editor, advertising your services as an editor to other comic book creators as well.
That's true.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's pretty interesting to me. That not only are you a comic book creator yourself, but you've also had this experience of actually editing other people's books. What do you look for when you're going through the editing process? How do
Well,
you fashion a comic book into the best possible thing that it can be, the epitome of what it can be as an editor?
well, for comic
Long-winded
books,
question, I know.
for a comic book specifically, I try and make sure that I talk with the creator first of all, whoever the story. I think I've done 5 comic scripts now that are not my own.
That's amazing.
They're CG books, but I can't talk about them because they're not out yet. But when they're out,
Wow.
then I will be sure to let people know about them, obviously, because I worked on them. But I make sure that I talk with everyone and say, what is it you want me to do? Because there's a lot that I can do, but people are very particular. So if they say, oh, I just want you to see if my grammar is, on point, then I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
I'll just look at grammar. But I can do, and I actually really enjoy doing formatting, making sure the script is formatted well. That's cathartic in a way because I think I've shown before, like Alan Moore scripts are just like this hideous block of caps lock text
Oh,
um,
yeah.
from my nightmares, and uh, haven't seen anything that bad, but it's fun to line things up and make it all look consistent, so that people can look at it and say, "Oh, wow, that's a really well put together script. I can understand this intuitively." This is,
Mm.
an artist can look at a script and understand exactly what the writer wants. That's what I'm thinking
Big time.
about when I'm not thinking about like commas and spelling and proper grammar usage. But also, one thing for comics specifically that I've had to keep in mind is that quite often, since it's mostly, a script is mostly dialogue, that's what the reader's going to see anyway. They're just going to see dialogue. They're not going to see, you know, Batman runs around. Like, they're going to see, like, Joker, stop. So you have to keep in mind how does every character talk and why, and make sure that, excuse me,
It's
make
okay.
sure that that stays consistent.
Mm. Now, in your own mind, what do you think it takes to be a good editor? Whether you're working on your own book or somebody else's, what are the kind of things that you're looking for? Do you look at the overall structure? Are you looking at just specific areas of the book to see whether or not they can be polished and molded into something better? What do you think of the assets that a good editor has at their disposal? What separates a bad editor from a good editor, in your opinion?
A good editor is selfless, and a bad editor is selfish. And what I
Mm.
mean, sorry, I was getting a dry spot in my throat. What
I
I
got
mean by
plenty of
that
those at the
is
moment.
a bad editor takes what they're given and makes it their own. Um, because they know, oh, my name's going to be on this. Like, this is how I want it to look. It would
Right.
probably be like the equivalent of, I don't, a bad colorist, where it's like the penciler and the inker have done exactly what needs to be done, and then the colorist comes in and just like does a really horrible job. Crayons over top of it, changes all the line work. Like, that would probably be the equivalent that I could give you.
For sure.
You
I think that
can't go
sounds reasonable.
into, yeah, you can't go into being an editor with this mindset of like, oh, this is my thing.
Mm. But you've got to care about it at the same time, I guess. I feel like
Yeah.
you have to have this almost objective angle that you come at it from as an editor. You've got to have an overall view, a high up view of how the entire comic is structured in a sense, at least for me, because it can be so easy to get lost in the weeds with a comic, I feel like, and to tinker away at something minor for an extended period of time that really doesn't matter in the grand scope of the entire project. And so while you might be trying to fix a panel on a page, figuring out whether or not it works, you haven't figured out whether or not it even fits into that part of the story. And maybe it needs to be moved to an entire other section of the book. So I find in my limited experience of editing, by the way, I haven't edited as many books as you, Ali, but I've found that for me, having a real understanding of exactly what the heck is going on in the book as a whole and where it's headed helps me to distinguish whether or not it's working. And usually I think it's not so much to do with the details. I think if fundamentally the story works, then the details can be tinkered with, but it won't really change the nature of the story too much. Whereas if there's a fundamental problem with the structure and it doesn't have the right beats and it's not keeping the attention of the audience all the way through, there's not enough stuff happening. Maybe there's a quiet portion of the book that's just going on a little bit too long, or an action-packed part of the book that's so action-packed it becomes normalized and boring after a while. I feel like that timing is something that a lot of comic book creators may get wrong. Also, tons of dialogue that is just thrown in, and
You mean like tons of really long dialogue and
yeah, and
an
it's
otherwise also boring panel of people maybe sitting at a table?
well, a lot of telling and not a lot of showing, a
Hmm.
lot of explaining, but not a lot of showing. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity there, especially if you think about the pages that are in an entire comic book and what you can dedicate those pages to. If you're just having characters engaged in a conversation with one another with not a whole lot of other stuff happening, that conversation better be pretty darn important. It better be revealing something significant or helping to develop the characters in some way. And hopefully it's not just there for the sake of filling up space within the book. And it's interesting because sometimes I feel like when I'm reading a comic book, and I don't know if it's because I've got a brain that is too lateral thinking or can't comprehend story very well. But I do feel like I get confused in some comic books. I don't know if that's just me, but I lose my way. And I'm like, wait, why is this happening? What's going on here?
Or do you start paying too much attention to the art?
Um, Possibly. Well, I feel like, for example, Spawn was a comic book that I really loved, and it had amazing visuals in it. But when I would read the story, sometimes it would feel needlessly drawn out.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
so again, there's a pacing issue there, I think, that is difficult to nail for a lot of creators, including myself. A lot of writers, both professional and amateur, it's difficult because it's nuanced, and not every story is going to suit the same pace of storytelling.
That's true.
Yeah. So, what caught your interest within the editing field? Why did you want to explore that a little bit more? Was that just for your own personal development in creating comic books and maybe even creating movies later on?
I mean, I like it. It's a source of income, obviously, but also there's a need for it.
Yeah.
Alex, verb, I am not bored. That's silly.
I put people
No,
to sleep. It's okay.
there's a need for editors in indie publishing in general, not just comics. Every part of indie publishing, and I get it because an artist is not a writer. Not every single, not necessarily, not every
Yeah.
single person who even wants to be a writer can be a writer or should be. It's the same thing that I always say about like fantasy. Not everyone needs or should be trying to be Tolkien. Chill
Mm.
on your world building. Um, it's sort of the same, and I think that with the mainstream being as low quality as it is lately, it should give us even more reason to push and say, I want our books to be flawless. And that includes even down to every single Oxford comma,
Yeah.
because even if you don't think you saw, or even if you don't think you see grammatical errors or story inconsistencies, your brain does. And you might not go back to that thing again,
For
be it
sure.
a movie or a comic.
Yeah, I think
We need to hold ourselves to higher standards, I guess is what I'm saying, because the mainstream is holding itself to no standards whatsoever, and that's pathetic.
I completely agree with that. I do think there has been a lack of importance placed upon the striving for excellence in a lot of different areas in of entertainment, especially. There's a real attitude of done not perfect, which I think has merit, but at the same time, I do believe it can be taken the wrong way, where it can end up at the other end. See, there's going to be polarizations at either end of whatever spectrum you're talking about. So if you're talking about perfectionism as opposed to just, you know, putting out something that is fairly worthless that had no effort put into it, then obviously there's going to be a sweet point at somewhere along that line that you want to be aiming toward, because if either extreme is not going to serve you well as a creator. And it's important to keep that in mind. So I think sometimes with the get it done, not perfect, it's easy to see that as an excuse to cut your efforts short, to not go to the lengths that you're not even aware you could have gone to. It's amazing when we hold ourselves to that level of excellence that you were talking about, and we surprise ourselves by just how far we can take it. And you see this in physical sport. Okay, so here's an interesting little tangent, right? So I used to hear
From you? What?
yeah, I used to listen to Tony Robbins talk about this stuff, and talk about how when it comes to physical sport and athletes, it's amazing how new records are continuously broken. Records that don't seem as though they should be or are possible to be broken, but then someone else comes along and pushes themselves even further and breaks that record. And I remember Tony Robbins used to do this exercise this exercise. It was like a technique where you would try to have your legs facing a certain way and then twist the top of your body around to point and point outward as far back as you possibly could. And and you would do that the first time, and you'd only be able to do it a certain amount. But then I forget what he would do. He would either get you to close your eyes and just try to really think about how far you could push yourself back, and then get you to do it while you had your eyes closed, and you'd open your eyes, and then you'd be like looking all the way over there. All of a sudden, you never thought that you'd be able to be capable of twisting around that much, but it was an exercise to show that you can go further than you think you can go. And I think it definitely applies to whatever passion, whatever craft it is that you're pursuing. When you think it's done, ask yourself, well, how much further could I actually take it? What additional level can I bring it up to so that it stands out? There's a lot of mediocre out there. A majority of work is mediocre, and there's a sea of it, and most of it is forgotten. But true excellence is attention grabbing. It engages the audience, it mesmerizes them, and it stands the test of time. I was just talking about this in an interview with Eric Ninotaski, actually. So all of that is to say I agree, Ali, 100%.
That's good. I very rarely find that people disagree with me. It must be because I'm right all the time.
Yeah. Apparently. So
well, so
go
on
ahead.
that note, though, if you're asking about, people are asking about story and stuff. I did a stream. Well, I've done a couple streams with him, but I did a stream with Chuck Dixon where this is what we talked about, right? We talked about story, and we talked about how to put it to how to put a good story together and how it works. And we were on the same page the whole time. And this was before I even know who he was. I didn't know who he was. And he just kept saying, yeah, Ali's right. Ali's right. So I was like, okay, good. I must know what I'm talking about if this guy says that I know what I'm talking about. So all that is to say, while story is king, you have to have, your, I guess, your advisors and your queen that are the editing base, because what you're looking at needs not only to function well as a story, but it needs to look nice in both script form and in the comic. So
yeah.
Maybe I went on too much of a tangent myself there too. Sorry.
No, my throat's drying out big time too.
Weird.
I'm still recovering from a cold.
Most said Chuck Dixon is Bancroft's answer to everything. Well, he's not wrong then. Also, I want to point out that Gifted Rebels. People are talking. Gifted Rebel said, "Ali, this girl rocks." And thank you.
Yeah, you've got fans. You've got fans in the chat.
Chris said scripts are for simps. Just wing it as you go, like the Barton Bros. Do you guys not have a script?
I write the script after I do the thumbnails, actually.
Oh, okay. So you do have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I have to draw it out for me personally. I need to see it in order to know how it's going to unfold, because words don't give me that much information.
Sure. You have an artistic mind, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I tried to do like thumbnails and also like a format, even just of like panels.
Yeah.
Because I thought I would need to do that in order to write it, but it actually made it harder because it looked terrible. Like it just looked awful. So I didn't feel like it was something I could present, to the world and be like, hey, look what a good job I did. And then also when I sat back and sort of gave my artist more control over the page and how it was laid out,
Yeah.
the pages turned out way better. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write my script and not give you any format notes about where the panels go or where anyone's standing. You can figure that out because I just don't have that eye.
Yeah, for sure. Some people are more visuals. Some people uh, represent their ideas inside their own mind in completely different ways. What freaks me out is those people who will think of a memory and they'll smell the memory, or
Oh, I can do that.
they'll get a weird feeling instead
So
of a visual representation of that memory.
here's what I ended up doing. I have them right here. These were my awful attempts at figuring out, like, sending him, and it makes no sense. They're kind of boring and basic. So it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
but really, I was looking at it and I was like, why? I don't even know why I kept them, but that's why.
It's good
And
to keep them.
well, it is ridiculous because it's like my lines are all crazy because but
Yeah.
either way, that is what I mean when I just needed to not do that. I was like, I'll just invest more time in everything else.
For sure.
All
For
the other
sure.
stuff I'm better at.
Well, you are somewhat of a story writer. You're not necessarily a visual person, or at least it's not your avenue of storytelling that you would typically go down or choose to go down necessarily. That's why you've hired somebody else to do it for you. There you go. Right
This
there.
is my first attempt at making a thumbnail type layout thing.
Mm, there you go. And so
It's terrible.
you must be pretty impressed with what your artist is coming up with based on what you're giving him.
Yep. He's gone above and beyond. So bad. Ugh. It's so bad. Ugh.
Oh, it looks great. Don't worry about it.
I should sell those pages. Who wants to buy my terrible original art?
Do you want me to edit your visuals?
Anyway, no, it's okay.
So you're writing a horror comic book. Obviously, you're a big fan of that particular genre. What do you think makes a good horror comic book? What were you keeping in mind as you were putting together the ingredients for Egg Beater?
A lot of it was I was stepping back from the
Yeah.
from the mindset that I was in when I was writing the script, because with a camera, it's not as static. You can create motion in panels for sure, but it's still static just because it's a page. With a camera, they can move it all around and force your eye here and zoom in here, like, and your eyes just naturally follow that. I had to sort
Yeah.
of condense everything important that would be happening smaller. And because of that, I had to choose very carefully, what is the element of horror that needs to go just in this panel? Like, what's the most important thing that I need to highlight right here in this moment? And then, obviously stretch it out to a page or two, but a lot of it was just sort of humbling myself so that, my artist isn't sitting there drawing, entrails halfway out and then entrails all the way out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I have to give more credit to the reader that they can sort of intuit what's going on. And also, like I said earlier, give more freedom to my writer. So I tried to make sure I humbled myself in that area, but I focused a lot on story. And the deeper, like, emotional aspects of the story for the comic. In addition, to the juxtaposition, you know, of the comedy. Horror and comedy bounce off each other very well because, you know, it is about, you know, the terror, the adrenaline, but it's also that sort of relaxation that laughter creates. Um,
Yeah.
so I had to, you know, obviously balance that out, and it just seems to fit so perfectly together. You know, the puns kind of
Mm.
slide in there easily. Um,
You're very good
and
at
I hope,
puns.
thank you. I hope that people can. This is gonna sound weird, but I do hope, like you were saying earlier, that people can actually smell this
You
book. You
you
know,
want them to smell the experience of egg beater.
yeah, kind of. You know, like
What smells like eggs?
well, you know, when it's donuts and boiling flesh, right? Or when it's like, what would a cupcake that was baked with eyeballs smell like? Probably chocolate and not great, right?
You're mixing delicious things with grotesque things, and I don't know how I feel about that. I
Well,
don't know if I like it, and if I do like it, does that make me a bad person?
you should like it. It doesn't make you a bad person. And my grandpa always told me to stick with what you're good at.
For sure.
And apparently that's what I'm good at.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've been highly educated within the genre of horror, I assume. You watch lots of horror movies? You
I
read lots of
don't
horror
actually
books?
watch a lot of horror movies, but I do
Oh,
read a lot of horror and sci-fi and fantasy. The reason I don't watch a lot of horror movies is, and it's gonna sound silly,
you're a scaredy
but
cat.
it's because they scare me.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's not even the movie that scares me. It's what happens when I turn the movie off.
Oh, yeah.
My imagination turns on, and you know, you can't watch horror movies in the middle of the day, but it's like I watch a horror movie, I turn it off, and then I'm laying in bed with my eyes wide open, listening to every little noise that is made. And it's like it's nerve-wracking and I don't like that. So
Oh, yeah, it
I
is.
I have to watch movies with other people.
I get almost the same experience as that if I don't get enough sleep. If I've had one too many late nights, after a while, I find that a strange paranoia almost starts to seep in a little bit, and I get a little jumpy. You know, I start seeing shapes and shadows out the corner of my eye, and oh, it's just the coat rack. It's all good, Clayton. Settle down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the scariest movie that I've ever seen to this day is still The Ring. And
that's a
partially
good
that
movie.
yeah, well partially that's because of what happened when we turned it off. When we turned off the movie that we weren't supposed to be watching because our parents had forbidden it. I think we were like 15. When we turned the movie off, the whole week whenever the phone went off, it was like whenever we saw a chair, it was like, "Oh my god." You know, whenever we I didn't want to brush my hair in front of the mirror.
Oh
Like
yeah, creepy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't there was one of my neighbors randomly had a wooden ladder just on the side of his house, and I went around the block to avoid that freaking ladder because I was so
Mm,
afraid of this movie. And even though a week went by and I was fine, I still was actually afraid for another week because I was like, what if it's just more? Like,
oh yeah. Tell
and
me
it
about it.
still is the scariest. It's the movie that scared me the most. Like, it was Exorcist for my mom, but The Ring for me.
Yeah, Exorcist, The Ring, Poltergeist, all of those great classics. The Ring was a big one for me too. I just, whenever I closed my eyes, I couldn't get the image of her crawling out the TV from my mind. It was
Stop it.
creepy. Yeah.
You just gave
Corey
me a shiver.
Corey watched the start of The Ring. and freaked out so badly that he couldn't finish it. And by the start, I just mean when they found the woman in the closet, that was when he was like, "Nope, I'm done with this."
Oh,
Yeah, but we watched it again recently, and it's actually a great movie. There's a solid model and structure to the storytelling in that movie that I think works quite well.
oh my gosh,
But
Dean's in the chat.
hey, Dean, what's up?
He's in the chat right when his thing is up.
Lots of awesome people in the chat today. Really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Pastor
joining
Jack,
us.
Curios,
Yeah, Pastor Jack in the house.
Chris Cranham. There's all
Chris
sorts of
Cranham,
peoples.
my number one fan. Love
Your
Chris
number
Cranham.
one fan, really?
Yeah, Chris Cranham has been around for a long time. Always supporting the Barton Bros. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I feel like horror movies, the thing about them. Okay, this is just gonna freak you out, but hear me out for a second.
Okay.
So you know that we filter a lot out, a lot of information. We can only see a certain spectrum of color. In fact, the color that we can see, we don't even notice because there's a little something called the reticular activation system, and what that is it's your brain only noticing the things that are important to it. Everything else it just kind of forgets about or doesn't pay attention to. I think that when you watch a horror movie, it brings your awareness up to another level where you start to sense things that you couldn't sense before. Now, the scary part is determining whether or not those things you're sensing are really there or not. So, for example, if you got that creepy feeling like there's another presence in the room with you, maybe on a different plane of existence, there really is an entity sitting right there with you on the couch that you're beginning to sense because now your senses are open. The horror movie has got your attention, your reticular activation system taking in information that it wasn't taking in before. That's what freaks me out. It's like you're opening the window wider when you start to watch horror movies and become paranoid and get the heebie-jeebies.
I'm actually okay with that because if I
just think about that tonight.
This is gonna seem really like girlish of me, but
no,
or maybe even immature. But if I can't see it and it's not hurting me, then I don't really care if it's right next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you
like
don't really
what?
care.
Yeah, I don't really care.
See, I watched this other horror movie once called Shutter, and it was a Thai movie. And the scariest part about that movie is this guy the entire time, the main character throughout the book, he's getting this really brutal pain in the back of his neck and his shoulders. And he would see the doctor about it, and he's like, man, what's going on? And they took x-rays of his back, and his spine was all messed up. And they couldn't work out why. They would try to prescribe this and that. He'd go to the chiropractor to get fixed up. And right at the end of the movie, you realize that this ghastly ghost woman has been sitting on his shoulders the entire time, on top of him. And that's why
And
he's
it's
been
just like a demon that no one could see, or
yeah,
it was outside our visual spectrum.
So that entity was just hanging around on his shoulders. He was carrying that load. Yeah, that creeped me out. I loved that though as a storytelling mechanism. The things that you assume in a movie are normal or not that big of a deal that later on reveal themselves to be either something very disturbing or very important later on. I think that's great. It messes with your expectations, subverts them a little bit.
At this point, there's not a lot in that area that surprises me anymore, and I think it's because a a lot of the subtlety has gone out of writing and of filmmaking. When something's important, you can kind of tell because like the camera lingers on it for just a beat too long, and you're like, oh, that's going to be important later. And then when it is, you're like, oh, I remember that. I kind of like it better when, even though there are, allusions, Allusions, even when there are allusions, they are no more focused upon than anything else in the story, because then I can
Yes.
go back and I can rewatch it and I say, oh my gosh, wait, that was the thing. And then it facilitates rewatching. Like the movie Memento. It's not a horror film, but the movie
It's a good
Memento,
movie.
yeah, it does that a lot. And it's filmed so weird, like you have to pay attention the whole time. It is forcing you to pay attention. And there's a lot of stuff in it that you just totally miss the first time around. And it's pretentious, but Donnie Darko is the same way.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, for sure. Where you can rewatch a movie and get something new out of it every time. Same can be said for comic books. I love that idea of just incorporating little elements throughout a comic book that you pick up on later on. Maybe even in another issue, that second issue reveals something in the one before that you didn't quite have the full context of. I think it almost keeps the experience, it enriches the experience a little bit more, gives it more depth. But I'm sure there's not a whole lot of subtlety with Egg Beater. Something just tells me that. I feel like Egg Beater is very in your face.
Um, Sometimes I've
Being a
tried to
horror
mix it up.
being a horror comedy and all.
I've tried to mix it up a little bit, in the way that, uh, vintage sort of horror did.
Hmm.
Um, so I tried to put in, you can do this more with a movie, obviously. I had to condense it, but I tried to put in, clever dialogue between, gangsters. That is always really cool to watch. And I don't mean Tarantino level dialogue where it's like, hey, did you ever wonder about hamburgers? And then they talk about hamburgers for like 20 minutes.
Mm.
I don't mean that. I mean, like, each character says only what needs to be said, no more and no less. And you know exactly what to expect from them. You know exactly what kind of person they are. And then you're just the interaction between, this gangster and this character. You're just like, even though I hate this gangster, this was really well put together scene.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely characters in a story that you can hate with all your might, but they work really well and they play the part really well that they're supposed to serve within the story.
Yeah. Well,
People
Curio
love to hate
says
characters.
good dialogue has so many elements to it and it's hard to achieve. I don't think it's as hard to achieve as people think it is. And the reason I say that is because if you get your mindset into it and you read a lot, and I mean a lot of good dialogue, and then you watch a lot of older films that have that like really well put together dialogue. Like one of the best examples that I can possibly give to anyone is the original House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price, because it is so masterful how everyone talks in that movie. Watching it is a delight. Not not purely because, it's nice to look at, because, a lot of the effects are admittedly dated.
Okay.
But the dialogue is beautiful. The way it's delivered is perfection. I could watch just the dialogue scenes in that movie, and I have, just on a loop. I had a DVD player that had A B repeat, And I would do that. I would just obsessively watch like one scene that I really liked over and over and over again, just so that I could study like what was
Mm.
happening. And I did that with that movie. I did that with The Hills Have Eyes,
Oh
although it
yeah.
was not for the dialogue so much.
Why did you rewatch The Hills Have Eyes if not for the dialogue?
Uh,
That was a very disturbing movie.
it is a very disturbing movie, mainly because I wanted to study the effects
Yeah.
and how they did the makeup and the effects, because it's really intense, it's really raw, and I mean, it. I'm not gonna lie. Even then, I was talking about wanting to make Egg Beater into a movie.
No way.
And yeah. Well, I mean, I saw it late. So this was probably 2007 when I
Mm.
saw that movie. So I'm pretty sure it'd been out for a couple of years by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I first thought of Egg Beater, it was like 2006 because I was in my college art class and we were doing a still life, and this still life had all these weird objects that our teacher had painted white, and to get the shadow and everything. And one of them was this old broken egg beater, like a hand cranked egg beater. And when we were done, and I'd been staring at it for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
when we were done, I picked it up and I just started playing with it and like moving it, and it was going like, and I was just playing around. I stuck my tongue in it. I've got a picture of me doing that somewhere.
Should include it in a book somewhere.
Maybe. But I went home, or I went to my friend's house that day, and I just kept talking about it. I was like, wouldn't it be crazy to like shove that in somebody's eyeball, like, and just crank it around? And they were just like, Allie, that's really sick. And I was like, yeah, but it'd be such a cool horror movie. Like, I know how you could do the effects and everything. And they're just like, Allie, that's really weird. And I just didn't shut up about it because it just seemed so fun and cool. And even though they thought it was weird and creepy, it did sort of grow to where they were like, you know what? Yeah. And we spent like the night thinking of, puns and funny scenarios. And even that same day, I had figured out the thing that he does.
Now that's the noise that he makes, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that well. It's become very memeable.
Memeable.
This egg beater sound that you make, very
Well,
well done.
So I put the songs on this little 45 record. I had made,
That's pretty cool.
and the song Egg Beats, which is like the hip hop version, at the end of it, it has the slurp noise, and I turned it up really loud because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be amazing to hear all my Egg Beater songs on my giant sound system." And I listened to it, and it was cool, but then it was really weird to
Oh yeah, I
hear
bet.
my voice just like screeching the slurp. And I was like, I wonder if my neighbors heard that.
They probably did. So who put the music together for you?
My neighbors probably think I'm a nutcase.
Hmm.
One of them was this local kid, whose band goes by the name of Silence, and then I hired this guy Burst Angel, who is a Twitch streamer, because I liked his voice a lot, and I mean he sounds like Antonio Banderas, and he's really funny. I loved his delivery, so I was like, how much to make you say all these puns I like?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much that. And then I found this hip hop song that's actually called Egg Beater, to take some samples from, and then Finatra put all that together.
Finatra, yes, he's a talented man.
Yeah.
Finatra's one of the best.
and then I called it egg beats. And actually, everyone who backed or even just donated, because I got some awesome people who just donated as well, which is
Oh,
pretty
cool.
crazy. Yeah. Everyone who contributed gets digital downloads of both the songs.
Nice. Hey, I got to admit, I would love to draw Egg Beater if time allowed it at some point. He just looks like such a fun character to draw. You know, all the details you can incorporate into him.
I've
Also, that
gotten a
just his
few.
general shape would be so fun to like the shape of his head and its structure.
I've gotten a few like fan drawings, not just the Dean one, but Bogdan Digital Art did one. Hockey, of course, has done a couple. Anthony Figaro did a really cool one that I'm gonna put on something. You can show that one if you want.
Lots of
That one's
talent getting involved with the stream, with the not the stream, but the comic book, with Egg Beater. Yeah, there's lots of talent. It seems that are getting involved with Egg Beater that are inspired by your idea.
So this is the one that Anthony Figaro of God's Hand did.
That's
He just
amazing.
randomly did that and sent it to me for Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like I gotta figure out something to put on it. I don't. This was the picture he sent me. I have it like I have the actual one, so that I can have like a high res file. But I was like, damn, look at that.
It's
Like,
pretty epic.
He's all sinister and kind of he's covered in blood. I was like, it's really creepy. But guess what?
What? You
Guess
mad
what I
mama?
did?
What did you do?
I did one too.
Oh, you did your own fan art of Egg Beater?
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience drawing your own character? That must have been fulfilling on some level.
I didn't draw it. And actually, it's for sale.
Oh.
I have never shown it to anyone
And
ever.
you're revealing it here.
Yes.
Wow.
The revelation.
How amazing is that?
Can you embiggen me?
I'm gonna do that. There you go.
Okay. So I want to preface this by saying if it's too stupid, just everyone let me know and I'll never mention it again. But basically my kid started doing this thing where she was doing like fake stained glass. And I was like, how cool would it be if I did like Egg Beater as stained glass that was in like the style of a saint? So I was like, I'll do Saint Eric the Beater. And so I did. It didn't turn out how I thought it would, but I still think it's cool. I will reveal it right now. Oh, Saint Eric the Beater.
Beautiful work. Bravo, Ali. Look at that. That's fit for a church.
And it's on glass. And I kind of have to hold it carefully because it's still wet, actually. But I have a frame that I'm going to put it in that's double paned glass. And then I'm going to put a chain on it so that it can be hung up, just like in a church. And I don't know if you can tell, but the Egg Beater kind of and the thing kind of glow because I used like sparkly paint for that.
I see.
Like, makes it look white though, but I put like instead of a halo, I put like an egg behind his head.
Yes, I see that now. I missed it at first.
So, yeah, I'm gonna put that up for sale.
That's a
Saint
great
Eric
idea.
the Beater.
An original Ali piece.
An original Ali piece. They're very, very, very rare.
The creator herself. Pulling in something made original just for the project.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on glass, is it?
It is on glass, and the frame that I have is glass as well. So it's double paned glass. So you won't be able to like touch it. It'll just be like inside the glass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Snorum didn't realize it was an egg. Well, it's an egg, so I made it, egg shaped instead of round, like a halo thing.
Oh boy. Some people
What
actually want to go to the church with egg beater.
is
Yeah.
is it stupid?
No, it's great. That's fantastic. So where are you going to make this available? How can people get their hands on it?
Well, how many hours are left on
Oh,
well, I've got 3 hours left, so I can just add it on as a tier.
you totally can. Now, you've got potentially other streams that you're going to be going on for the closeout today because Egg Beat is ending today, right?
In 3 hours, yeah.
In 3 hours.
Mhm.
So have you got some other streams lined up that you
Dark
may go
Gift
on?
asked me if I would come on,
Yeah,
but I don't
maybe.
know when he's streaming or when he'll be done. But I
Mm,
mean, I can always go on my channel
that's very true.
if you're bored of me.
I'm not bored of you whatsoever. We can keep talking here. I feel like we're only at the tip of the iceberg right now. I want to go deeper on the egg beater. I want to know when you're coming up with dialogue for egg beater, you were talking
Mhm.
about how you can get into the mindset of these characters, almost like method acting. Do you pretend that you're egg beater in the mirror and start throwing out lines in the voice of egg beater in order to come up with dialogue for this character? Or does he only say that one thing? Does he only slurp?
No, of course he says other things because he has to say the puns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
So tell me, how do you come up with his dialogue then? And could you do an impersonation of Egg Beater? Because I think that'd be pretty fun.
I mean, I kind of just write it and then I say it out loud to make sure it sounds natural.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
How does he sound?
I'm not an actor.
I wanna hear what he sounds like.
I mean,
If you're getting stage fright, though, it's okay. I won't
he
force you
kind
to
of
do it.
sounds like my friend Scott.
Your friend Scott.
Yeah, because so my friend Scott is the guy that I based how Egg Beater looks on,
Yeah. Wow.
and
Brutal.
he's a perfectly normal guy, but for some reason everyone thinks he's creepy.
Mm. And this is the guy you'd hire to play Egg Beater in the Egg Beater movie, correct?
Mhm. Yeah. I have a lifetime contract.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
I made sure. So if Egg Beater did ever become a movie,
Mm.
I have a lifetime contract where he has said for the rest of my life I will play.
Ah, wonderful. I'm sure he'd 100% take you up on that offer if it ever became a realistic thing, like a reality of Egg Beater being turned into a movie. But we're at the comic book stage, and you got an artist for the comic. You
Mhm.
found one.
I did.
You're in search for the person that was going to represent the visual presentation of the Egg Beater story. Where did you find them? And how did you get them to draw all of this disturbing stuff?
Well, actually, we were on a horror and sci-fi like art group on Facebook together.
Mm-hmm.
And was I hadn't really decided yet whether or not I was going to do it for sure. Um, but I saw this drawing that he posted of like creepy like cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's perfect.
He's the one. You knew.
I wonder if he would do a comic. So
Oh.
I sent him a message and I said, hey, would you ever be interested in doing a comic? And he said, yeah, I was actually thinking of getting into it. And I was like, perfect. And it just sort of went from there.
He was totally down for it. You must have been stoked about that when this artist that you had reached out to that you thought would be a good fit said, yes, I'm down. And so
Yeah.
he took what you gave him, came out with, I'm guessing, a few test pages, or who knows, maybe it was actual pages for the book. What was the feeling like to see the beginning of Egg Beater come about when you saw those first visuals from the artist? Because I know for Borok, for example, with Julius Gopez, seeing what he did with those layouts absolutely blew me away. And it really just was such an exciting time, because here was the book beginning to come to life. Now it's happening. Now it's on a roll. So what was it like for you seeing Egg Beater finally represented by a talented artist who was able to pick up
So
what you were laying down and do something with it?
I couldn't shut up about it
Mm.
pretty much. And I think at first we just had some like uh vague like character design things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was just scanning the stained glass thing so that I could put
Mm-hmm.
it up. Um and
Big character
I
design things. To find that, like, what do you mean big character design things with these conversations? Did you have specifics that you wanted included within the character's design?
did I have specifics? I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, like, did the artist come up with the most of the visual representation of Egg Beater, or were you like, no,
Oh,
this is what I'm after here? Send him a whole bunch of references, send him a picture of your friend.
I sent him
This is
a
what I'm
picture
after.
of my friend, and then I sent him some wrestler.
A wrestler, yeah.
I
So
can't
so
remember who it was now. Probably Braun Strowman, somebody like that. I sent him.
mm.
Um,
So by character design things, you're saying that he came up with a concept design for the character that you
here, I
decided to
I can
use for the
show you
book.
exactly what I mean. There it
Yeah,
is.
let's check it out. Oh, here we go. See, this is the cool stuff.
So this is
Nice.
the very first images that he sent me after our very first talk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
How'd you feel about it? Were you impressed?
I was pretty pumped. He took what I asked for and he put it exactly how I wanted it. Um, so it was perfect, and I ran around and I was like, "Oh my gosh, everybody, look, it's so amazing. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I could actually make this happen." Oh, like
Awesome. I know that
uh
feeling.
I took a picture on I have a flip phone, so like my picture quality is not great. But I took a picture on my flip phone and I was showing it to everybody and I was like, what does this look like? And they were like, he looks creepy. And I'm like, good. Uh,
Yeah.
Jay Desolate says, are those rolling pins? Yes, they are absolutely rolling pins. um, you can roll a whole body with them rolling pins. Yes.
Does he
Yes.
roll entire bodies with those rolling pins?
Uh
Maybe in the next issue.
Not to no, this is a one shot. Not to give
Oh,
anything away, but yeah. Um that and just like necks, just necks.
Yeah.
and spines.
Beautiful. So everything.
Mhm.
These rolling pins can roll anything you want them to roll.
Mhm.
Lethal in the hands of the egg beater.
Yes,
What?
exactly. And I mean, they're heavy duty, like freaking stainless steel.
Well,
Um,
yeah, all rolling pins are heavy duty.
yeah. And like it was just this, so I told him I wanted it to feel kind of like Sin City,
Mm-hmm.
or The Crow,
Yeah.
the comics. And
A
he basically
vengeance story.
yeah, he said basically say no more. I'll do some stuff up, and then this is what he gave me. And I was like, that's literally exactly what I wanted. I think the first time that he had like a sketch, he made him too ripped, and I was like, no, 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 he's a baker. He's got like a belly, he's got a
Mm.
dad bod.
It's got some dad bod action going on.
Yeah, like he's a big guy, but he's got a belly because he eats a lot of carbs.
Almost reminds me of Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I've not heard that one, but I've also never seen it. So,
You haven't seen Texas Chainsaw? So back when The Hills Have Eyes came out, there was also the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre coming out at about the same time. And I do feel like this was a really cool little like era of horror movies. They were gritty, they were disturbing.
mhm.
You didn't have like the whole color palette of these movies was just you know like browns and yellows and very dark, very gritty.
Well, I did see what's the one in Australia?
Yeah, same with Wolf Creek.
Yes.
Similar
Oh my
thing.
god.
Yeah, all those
Freaking
movies were coming out at about the same time, or at least the same
Wolf Creek
decade.
freaked me out. Like, and I
Yeah.
felt so bad. Well, speaking of my friend who was supposed to be egg beater, so he was going to Australia, and his plan was he was gonna start at like the top, and then just somehow get his way to the bottom. Like that was what
Yeah.
he told me he was doing. He was basically backpacking across, and he had made no
Hmm.
plans about how he was going to do it, but he's like, I land here, and then 3 weeks later I'm supposed to take off here. And so I was like, hey, let's go see this movie that's supposed to be a scary movie before you go. And he was leaving the next day,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what this movie was about. And we go into the theater, and and they're in Australia, and it goes, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what you're gonna be
Yeah.
doing. Oh no. And I felt so
Yeah.
bad. We left, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
And
I
you
had
know what?
no idea.
At the start of Wolf Creek, when the tourists walk into that bar, that is kind of what it is like in an Australian bar in the outback.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of. It depends. Sometimes you're not going to feel very welcome. Other times, uh, yeah, you will. It depends. But I really related with it because it reminded me a lot of what you'd expect to see in a country bar within Australia. But of
Well,
course,
it
uh,
made me not want to go to Australia.
yeah, yeah, Australia it doesn't mess around, man.
I was like, fuck Australia.
Yeah, but what is so? Dean just said that his friend, the Wolf Creek guy, is his dad, his friend's dad, which is really interesting. And it's funny because every now and then, I guess it's like America in some ways, but you will see Australian celebrities just walking around in Melbourne or uh, doing films in some part of Australia, some hometown that you grew up in, something like that. I think his name is John Garrett or something. That's the Wolf Creek guy. Anyway, all that
Okay.
stuff aside, this era of
Well, I
movies was
would not
fantastic.
enjoy that experience whatsoever, but fortunately, I wouldn't know what he looked like anyway, so
But you've seen Wolf
yay.
Creek, right?
Yeah, but I I can't remember faces, so
Yeah, you have face blindness.
yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Curious Comics. That's very nice of you.
And Wolf Creek 2 is even scarier. It's even more well, probably not scary, but definitely disturbing, more disturbing. They up the ante. There's a bit more gore in it. Anyway,
Yeah,
great movies. Corey and
I
I went
did
through them
see.
all.
I think I saw the beginning of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake,
You have to watch it. I can't believe you haven't watched it yet.
and then I fell asleep.
Wow. You're one of those people.
I guess I
Oh, no.
am.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, and then the one that came after it wasn't bad either.
Well, I
And
remember it was around the same time too when the sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses came out, and that was like the big thing.
there's a sequel to that? Is that the Rob Zombie movie?
Yeah, there's two
Wow.
sequels.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
The uh the people in the chat will help me remember because the name of them has gone right out of my head. Chad, what's the name of those movies?
Are the Rob Zombie movies?
It's House of a Thousand Corpses,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
There's two more, and chat's not going fast enough.
Oh, right. So it wasn't a House of a Thousand Corpses 2. It was just the name of another movie. Yeah, like the Devil's Rejects and stuff
Devil's
like that.
Rejects, yes.
Yeah.
Devil's
Yeah, like I
Rejects,
watched
and then
those. Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
I saw Devil's Rejects before I saw House of a Thousand Corpses, and I had no idea what it was about or anything. I went in blind, and I was like, "Fuck, am I watching?"
Yeah, right. I feel like the 80s, the 90s, and then the 2000s had some cool stuff. And then the period after 2010 hit and things began to go downhill a bit. I'm hoping there'll be a big swing around, though, and that in this next decade, we'll see some really cool stuff come out. I think we're
When did
starting
Jigsaw
to.
come out? Or
Jigsaw.
not Jigsaw, but Saw.
Yeah, Saw again came out at around that time.
And then Saw, but then also there's another really good one that had come out around the same time. I saw The Black Phone last year.
Yeah, me too.
That movie kicks ass. It's
It was
probably
pretty
one
good.
of my most favorite, and I guess it's not technically a horror movie, really. At least I wouldn't call it a horror movie. Universal did do a really weird haunted house of The Black Phone that I went through.
Right.
And it didn't feel right. Like, so I go every year to horror nights at Universal Studios, and I'm scared the whole time. I'm just terrified. But we go into the Black Phone one, and I was like, this will be cool. But it was actually just kind of sad. Because, it's about little boys who are kidnapped and murdered.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But it was a surprisingly good movie. And there's been a few like that.
To be in the Black Phone, like, haunted house, though, like, I wasn't scared. I was just kind of sad. So I was like...
It shouldn't have been a whole house. It just should have been a bunker.
Well, it was, there were, like, it was the second part of, like, a dual house. They do that sometimes. But it was just, like, walking through the movie sets. And so it was really... And, I mean, I cry in that movie when I watch it. So it was like, I don't really want to cry. So we went and we left and we went to other ones that were actually scary. But I was just like, I don't know why they chose that one. That's weird. But
Corey,
they never disappoint me. They're always great.
Corey Kill Her Goats was not a great movie. It only had bikini babes and it was shot well. That was all that it had going for it.
Killer Goats?
Yeah, Kill Her Goats. That was fine, but it wasn't good.
Did you see
Zombievers was way better.
there's like Killer Christmas Tree or whatever, and it's about a serial killer that gets turned into a Christmas tree, and it like is a Christmas tree walking around
Oh
killing
no.
people.
No, man, that I feel like that's just so you though.
No, it's so bad.
Yeah,
No, I would not do that.
sure. I don't know about
No,
that.
it's terrible. It's fucking
Yeah.
awful.
Uh,
Like what I'm going for, or what I was going for when it was going to be a movie, was like a higher class of trauma film. Maybe some people in the chat will know, like, Trauma is a really indie movie studio, and they just do like really fucked up shit.
mm,
um with all like practical effects.
cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But I was trying to go like a step above that.
Mm.
Um but that's sort of the basic idea.
Just so, Ali, do you think you will make your own horror movie one day, whether it's based on Egg Beater or something else? I almost feel like you could get away with a fairly low budget in making a horror movie. I really do. You know, if you think about, let's take the Black Phone, for example. How many sets were there? There was really only a few, but the main set was filmed in that bunker. And then you had the phone, you had maybe one or two actors that were
Um
taking the spotlight for most of the time.
I think they actually did film it in Colorado too, cuz that was one thing watching
Mm,
it. I was just like, "Holy crap, that looks like Colorado." Like cuz
there you
that's where
go.
I used to live.
Yeah.
Um I mean, it looked like Colorado in the 70s, but I was just like, "Oh wow, that's where
Mm,
the mountains are." Like that's how it looks.
there you go.
So I think it was, unless it was CGI and I just didn't notice. I think they were on location too. I would prefer that. My problem is mainly in transportation.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't drive? Me either.
I can't drive, no. So that would that was turning into the thing that was going to end up costing the most.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So
Well, maybe you could get a friend involved in the movie who would drive you to the set, drive you to where you wanted to go, and maybe even be an actor in the movie.
um maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows? I mean, you could almost you could think about how long it would actually take to shoot. Might only take a few days. I'm pretty optimistic when it comes to this stuff, though, so I could be wrong. But hopefully one day, especially if Egg Beater, the character, becomes a cult classic, you never know. It could happen. You'll be able to turn this thing into the movie that you dreamed it might be someday. But
Um well, I would like that. I am, so Egg Beater's a one shot, but I'm doing a trilogy because people seemed so
you're doing a trilogy of Egg Beater.
sort of. So people seemed to like the idea where they would say like, "Oh, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker."
Ah,
And when they said that, I was like, "Oh man, I got to do it." So I actually had this burst of creativity. I wrote all these like silly uh uh serial killer nursery rhymes and made all these character designs, and then Hockey drew up some stuff. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to make three, and I'm going to call them the Tradesmen trilogy because they're all men of trade.
hmm.
And uh, then it'll be, these three books.
Yeah, fantastic. That's pretty
And
cool.
hopefully I can use the little fly.
The Little Fly.
Yeah, Dean drew this little fly, and I love him. So
Gotcha.
I might have my little lovey little fly. I kind
Ah,
of want to do
beautiful.
like um a small little comic about, I named the fly Frederick J. Flabbergast, and I kind of want to do one where like a spider kills his family and he has to go like get revenge on the spider or
Hmm.
something. I don't know.
For sure.
This is what I do with my time.
Yeah, you brainstorm new disturbing ideas that could be potential storyline offshoots later on. You're a creative person, Ali, and I was going to talk about with you as well the fact that this isn't the first story that you've written. You've written plenty of other stories as well. That like this isn't your first rodeo, so to speak. You got the Wild Man story. You've got the what was it? The Crown
Rotting
of
Crown.
the Rotting Crown. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you're a well practiced author.
I like to think I do okay.
Hmm. Tell me about the difference between writing a novel and writing a comic book.
Um,
Or are they pretty
well,
much the same?
oh no, they're not the same. So
Hmm.
basically,
Do you have to go through a learning curve of some kind to write for a comic book?
no, it's sort of like how I said earlier, where you sort of have to humble yourself when you're doing a comic, because not only is there a lot of stuff that you can't necessarily include, but also you have to think about the artist. I really, with all of the scripts that I've done for comics, I try and make sure that I'm keeping the artist in mind. That
Mm-hmm.
is how to not draw, how to not drive an artist insane by what you give them. Um,
Like,
and what I mean by that is not making them draw the same thing over and over again too much, uh, not giving too vague a description, but also not being overly specific. Um, maybe if you're like you and Corey have a system that works differently because you're sort of more partners, you guys can afford to do that thing where you just like stand above him and yell at him. Um, but it's almost like you kind of have to just be nice.
mm,
Whereas with my prose, I don't have an artist that I have to think about at all. So I can just write whatever I want. Um,
no matter how complicated or how boring it would be to draw,
yeah,
or how
because
complex and difficult.
nobody's drawing it. Maybe it would be cool if I got fan art someday, but
Hmm.
nobody's drawing it. Well, other than the cover, obviously. But
Yeah, for sure.
hey, John Malin's in here. What's up?
Yeah, John Malin made it. How's it going?
Yeah,
Yes.
is that still up? Oh, I do still have that up. Look at that.
Yeah, so with what Corey and I have discovered about comic book making, probably one of the most challenging things is lots of characters in the scene at once. That's
Hmm.
very time consuming on all levels. So it's time consuming for the penciler, the inker, and the colorist. Whereas if it's just a headshot of a character, then the time it takes to execute that, to illustrate it, goes down significantly. And there are some comic books where I've actually noticed the creator has clued onto this. And you'll see that there's maybe one action scene with a ton of stuff going on in it. And then the rest is close up headshots or bust shots. Now, I think that can be noticeable if it isn't balanced out correctly.
Hmm.
You shouldn't be noticeable. Nothing in particular should be noticeable. It should just feel nice. The entire experience of reading the book, which is why when there's certain crutches that an artist might lead on, or storytelling techniques that the writer might commonly include within their script, if it happens too often, it can throw the reader off there. Like they start to recognize these reoccurring patterns, and they can tell that it's a technique. It takes them out of the experience a little bit. So it should really be seamless. Nothing should ever stand out necessarily like a sore thumb, at least as a storytelling mechanism or an art present, or in terms of art execution. However, that's not the same thing as having a prominent point within the story that surprises the audience, that catches them off guard. That's a completely different thing to what I'm talking about here. This is more like, shortcuts that are great to have in your toolbox, but if you use them too often, it can cause an imbalance within the final presentation that you don't want the audience to notice. So yeah, that's been an interesting observation that I've made, actually. But yes, Corey and I, Paul Corey, so he is working on some pages for Borok, or has been working on some pages for Borok, where there's a bunch of these ghouls, these zombie creatures called the Zolites, and they essentially tear apart. There's a scene in the book where they're tearing apart a bunch of villages. So there's a horde of Zolites and a bunch of villages, and even though Julius has drawn all of those out and finished up the page, I'm sure he went through hell doing it. Now Corey's got to come in there and color it all. So he's got to go and flat each of those little figures and shade them beautifully, because that's how I like it done. So pages like that, I think, can be especially grueling to produce. And I would say, as a writer, and again, I'm not a super experienced writer, it fascinates me. And obviously I looked into it because I'm writing Borok. And I also think that when it comes to movies and script writing and that kind of thing, I think almost when it comes to writing a script for a comic book, it's much closer to a script for a movie than it is for a novel, as an example. I think it is much easier to adapt a movie script for a comic book if you've got the experience of creating comics in the first place. But very much so, when I'm designing the script for a comic, I am playing it out in my mind as if it's a movie, in order to figure out whether or not it's going to flow well, and to get the balance right, and to get the pacing right, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I completely lost myself on that tangent. But
that doesn't sound like you.
Basically, back to what I was saying, it is really, I think, something which is worth keeping in mind as an author or a script writer of a comic book, that the artist is going to have to draw everything that you tell them to draw, that you put into that script. So if you've got hordes of zombies or lots of villages, keep in mind that they're going to take a while to get all of that stuff down. So instead of like a day or two to produce, it might take 3 or 4 days.
I want to point out, Snorrum said that I'm the new Graham Nolan, and I'm going to take that as a compliment. So thank you.
I almost lost my voice on that tangent.
That's okay.
Yeah. So are you conscious of that when you're writing out the script for Egg Beater? And again, I don't know how much control you give your artist necessarily, but I guess being a horror book where you're talking about a slasher, there's maybe only 1 or 2 characters in the scene at once, most of the time.
What, conscious of how many people are in the scene?
Well, how taxing it will be for your artist.
Yeah, of course
to draw
I
it
am.
out, because I think that is probably one of the things that you're going to be considering, whether you're making a movie or a comic book, is that more stuff in a scene equals more time spent and potentially more money spent. So, for example, in a movie, if you want a shot of a massive army of dudes fighting another massive army of dudes, and you want all these special effects and craziness going on, obviously that increases the expensiveness of the production of that movie.
It doesn't necessarily increase like the expense, obviously, that I'm putting into the book. But it does increase the time
Mm,
for my artist,
for
obviously.
sure. For sure.
Um, Also depending on how much needs, how much detail would need to go into it. I don't believe that I've given him any huge scenes with a lot of people. As I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure no. Um, but I didn't put a lot of thought into that specifically. I guess I was just writing what needed to be in the story to make it a good story.
Ah, so you weren't writing it with your artist in mind entirely.
I mean, I guess not, but it didn't it didn't come up because it's not that kind of story. Like
You guys work well as a team.
it's a very it's a very close story.
Yeah, totally.
So,
That's what I was talking about. It like the elements that you're going to be including in a story like Egg Beater probably aren't going to be super vast and expensive on time and money. Like your artist will be able to execute most of what is in every scene.
okay.
I think that this is really realized by artists who are also writing their own books. You'll see it put into practice more so because let's say I decide to hire an artist to draw out my comic book, then I can just say to that artist, hey, I want you to draw all of this crazy stuff and all of that crazy stuff, make it epic, make it amazing. And then they've got to go off and do it and go through whatever brutal experience they have to pull it off, right? But if you're drawing it yourself, then all of a sudden you're very conscious of exactly how much effort it's going to take to pull off a page rather. And so you are probably going to be picking in that instance scenes that are easier to illustrate. So headshots, you'll see more bust shots. I guarantee you, if you look at comic book creators who are writing their own stuff, you're going to see more bust shots and more headshots and less of those more intense action packed scenes with lots and lots of characters and lots of background elements behind them.
Well,
I wonder if that's true. I don't know. I could be
there's
wrong about that.
I have background, like shots with a lot of background. I just don't really have a lot of shots with a lot of people.
Hmm.
I mean, there's the whole, almost the whole beginning of it happens in the forest. So he was drawing trees,
For sure.
trees in the day and at night.
Yeah. To get him to mix the trees up a little bit, rather than making them all pine cone trees, maybe add some bushes at the base,
I
get
just
some
let him do whatever he
some
wanted.
variation of foliage in there. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You're a little bit more hands off when it comes to the art side of things. You give him what you've got, and he creates magic with it. I assume is
Um,
how it works.
I have to get up for just 1 second to
Go
shut the door.
ahead.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead. Uh, let's have a look at what the chat is talking about. Snorum. I have a feeling the candlestick maker will be dipping a lot of people into hot wax. Yeah, it made me think of the movie with Paris Hilton in it. Was that Wax Museum? House of Wax. Yeah.
Okay, I am back.
Yeah.
Sorry
Oh,
about that.
hello. Hello there. Chris says Clayton's advice is don't put Zolite hordes in your books. Well, it depends. It depends. Just know what the consequences of that will be. So, Ali, we'll wind this up in about 10 minutes, I think. But what I want to ask you is how are people going to feel once they've read Egg Beater, once they've experienced this book? Are they going to be left traumatized? Are they going to be able to relate with the world as they once related with it after they've gone through Egg Beater? What impression is this going to leave on your readers?
I hope that it leaves people feeling happy.
Feeling happy?
Yeah.
What kind of horror writer send off is that? You should be
Maybe
saying, you know what? They're going to close the final page of that book having vomited everywhere with disgust and trauma.
no, I want my reader to
Sickly happy.
enjoy what he has just gone through. Whether it is whether whether it is a perverse enjoyment or a more pleasurable enjoyment is up to my reader, but I would hope that they would put it down feeling satisfied. Okay, so maybe not happy, maybe satisfied is a better way to put it.
Right. See, I feel like, for example, after I read Egg Beater, I'm never going to be able to beat eggs in the same way again and feel the same way about it. Or I'm gonna beat some eggs. Like I have to beat some eggs tonight for the chicken and leek pie that I'm going to create. It's one of my specialties. And when I'm beating that egg, you know what I'm going to be thinking about? The face of Egg Beater.
Good. So every time people make deviled eggs, you know,
Yeah.
or eat donuts, or whatever they're doing with baking, it would be pretty cool if that was what forever they associated. They make an omelet and they think Ali and egg beater. Like that would actually be pretty cool. The
Yeah.
association.
I don't think you
Um,
realize how many people you're going to traumatize with this book.
I don't. I don't think anyone will be traumatized, but
No.
I gotta find it. Somebody had asked a question. They said, where did it go? Someone asked what the point of view the book's going to be written in. It is not Egg Beater's point of view. And there's no like narrator though. So you're just watching what's happening. And then Clayton is the Egg Beater? No.
No way. I'm way too handsome to be Egg Beater.
Someone else had asked a question too. Oh yeah, okay. Jay Desolate Soul asked that. And then Curios asked, what does Candlestick Maker refer to? A man who makes candles.
Wax on and wax off.
Yeah, maybe. A good page would be a transition from beating some bloody guts to beating some eggs. Perhaps. I have a lot of the death scenes. What he's done is it's not only like from far away that you see what's happening, right? You're getting right up close into the action and you're seeing like eyeballs popping out. If you scroll down on the page, you can see some of those panels.
Let's see them.
Where it's all like gooey and stuff.
See, this is what I'm talking
Right
about
there.
though. Like,
so those
I want this stuck in my head at night and I can't stop thinking about it. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Those are
when people
three separate
read Egg Beater.
panels that are just close-ups. The rest of those scenes are like all sorts of different angles and from far away because there's more than just that going on in those scenes.
How is anyone supposed to read this book and leave the book feeling happy and okay? Because he got his vengeance, maybe.
Maybe, but I mean, like I said, a better word would be satisfied.
You don't care how you leave the world, do you? After they read your book. You're just like, I'm just going to put this out into the ether and whatever comes of it, let the chips fall where they may. And you'll move on to your next horror story.
I mean,
and send it off.
You're right. I didn't really consider the state of the rest of the world.
The consequences of your horror books.
It's okay. AE and BE.
There's only one person on this panel that thinks that much, Ali. It's okay. I overthink things to the nth degree. So I'm thinking about the effect that Egg Beater is going to have on your readers for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's going to change their entire experience making cakes and anything to do with eggs. They're going to look at hens in a completely different way.
Hens.
Well, yeah, hens.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So,
well, I put the tier for the stained glass on there. It's a St. Eric
awesome.
beater tier.
I see.
I don't know if anyone will get it, but if they do, awesome.
Well, you've got lots of options here.
I do. I wanted lots of fun options that maybe people hadn't done. So, but I mean, you're already getting, I've got the trading cards. I've got the recipes for death trading cards. I have the magnets. Everybody gets a since I funded, everybody gets the bookmark.
Yeah.
I've got the magnets and the prints. So
signed book prints. Yep.
Yeah.
These are great. I like these warm and tozy socks as well. I'm surprised nobody's picked that up.
I am too, because there was a chat that asked for them.
Yeah.
That's why I made them.
And I like how instead of white yolk, it's black yolk. I mean, no. It's egg blacks, not egg whites, and yolk.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's what I was thinking. Because I take it you've gone with the yellow because of the yolk of the egg, but then it's black.
Yes, that's so exactly what I did.
It's egg blacks instead of egg whites.
I mean, that's good. That's not what I did, but that's pretty good.
Yeah,
no,
see, I'm thinking about this stuff for you.
You are. Those are actually, if you look close, they're the cross pins thing, which is just the logo. So my artist actually just did that out of nowhere. I didn't ask him to do that.
That's cool.
Yeah, he just did that. He's also the reason why the egg beater logo right there, the title has the cute little egg beater as the T. He did that. Yeah. That's not something I would have thought of. So it shows that he's proven his value over and over again, and it has shown me the actual value of getting an artist, just period. Because
for sure.
Yeah, all the stuff that he has thought up that I didn't think of, because I'm over here thinking of not just story, not just puns, but of formatting, of character, like all that stuff. He came up with a good amount of really cool ideas that work out perfectly.
Great.
And actually, after that thing that I showed a bit ago, that was just those two shapes. After that, the first thing that he sent me did turn out to be this huge original art that I'll have to pull back a little bit so that you can see.
Oh, let's get that up.
So he sent me this, and this beautiful. Was the very first thing that officially I got from him that was the culmination of all of our character design, months and months of figuring it out, testing everything out, and he just did perfectly. And it's all my ring light is really annoying, but it's all traditional, and he's doing my ear fell out. He's doing the whole book traditional. So at the end, I'm going to have, a stack of papers just like this. Although I had this for sale and it sold the first day, which is pretty cool. It's the only thing so far that I'm able to have my artist sign, partially because he already signed it, because he lives in California and I live in Florida. So yeah, the value of an artist is
Oh, absolutely.
completely, like, I can almost not put a dollar amount on it, especially one who is, who has, I guess, the gift for it, who's got that design mind.
Absolutely. It is. It is. It's great when somebody can represent your story in an even more epic way than you could have thought possible. Because I guess that is the artist's job, is to complete the idea for you to an extent. Like, okay, you've written it out, here's the visual representation of it, and you decide whether or not you like it. But I have a feeling
And
that when I'm searching for meaning in your book, it's your artist that I'm going to be going to. And I'll be like, what does this mean? And
I
he'll be
mean,
like, I asked Ali. She said it didn't mean anything. What are you talking about?
it's not necessarily that something will not mean anything.
I know. I'm just kidding.
And
Uh,
I can show another almost done page. If I can just zoom out of it so you can see the whole page. What I have of the pages is just the scans that he sent me,
mhm.
because he's just going to send me the whole thing
Oh,
at
great.
once. Or I might fly to California. I don't know, because I'm a little bit paranoid, but this is an almost done page.
Fantastic.
Almost done because there's still some background stuff here and there. Um, and then obviously the lettering. Um, but my favorite thing about this page was this like smile. So in my head, all of these were like rectangles and squares, but he just added this like crazy circle with the laughing mouth just like right there. And it was another thing that completely makes it's my favorite part of this whole thing. And it proved again, like how awesome he is. And in my head, all of these shots were straight on, and he took everything and moved everything so it was like more dynamic, everything's a little off or bent or turned. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
So,
Thoroughly terrifying.
yeah, and in my little drawing of this, that's what this was. This page became that, and that page is almost done.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he took my like ridiculous elementary scribbles and has done that.
He
So,
made magic.
and that's that. I haven't shown that on anything yet,
Really?
actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've never shown any pages anywhere.
Why do I feel like I've seen them before? Have you sent them to me?
I've shown like some pieces, but I've never just shown a full page.
That's
Like,
pretty
I can
awesome.
show another one if
Yeah,
people
let's
want to
check it out.
see. This one is probably one of my favorites. Share screen. There we
I feel like I
go.
relate to Egg Beater. I feel like I've been through some stuff too, walk through the fire.
This one, the only thing that needs to happen is the lettering.
Oh, there you go. Wow, that's messed up.
So this one's almost totally done. I just have to do the lettering.
What the heck happened to that guy's head?
It's squishing off.
It's squishing off?
Yeah.
But the top of it, I mean. Is the top of his head sliced open?
What do you mean?
It looks like
Oh, his hair?
the top of his head has been sliced off and there's a flap of skin hanging over the side.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what's happening?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. How did he manage to do that with a rolling pin?
No, that's his hair.
Wait, what?
So I don't know how else to describe it. That's his hair. This is a different guy.
Right, I gotcha.
This is a different. So this guy up here is watching what's happening. This is a different guy.
Yeah.
See his hair like comes up. That's just a close up of like the hair flap.
The hair flap.
Yeah. You've never seen a hairdo like that?
Well, the top of his head looks flat. Like it's been chopped off.
Well, I'll tell my artist. He's got it. He can still add changes.
No, I like it. It makes it even more disturbing. Thought it had been sliced off like a roll of ham. Just hanging off the side there.
Well, I mean, if it looks weird, he's still got it. I can have him make any changes.
Sure. I don't think it looks weird. I think it looks disturbing. I like it. But then, yeah, he does have hair in the next panel. So,
Rumble says Clayton has trouble identifying hair since he lost his.
Yeah. It's still there. I just keep it shaved now. I'm going for a clean look.
Oh, no. Dean says, what were the rectangles and squares doing? What color were they?
What did it all mean?
I feel like he's referencing something. I feel like you're trying to use egg beater to I feel like you're replacing your cube thing
what?
with my writing. Like
Picture yourself in the desert.
prompt.
What do you see? Egg beater.
No, that is not what I see. That would be strange.
A lowly rolling pin.
Yes, my cube is a rolling pin.
Yeah. I want you to picture a rolling pin. Where is it in relation to you? Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone into insane territory. We should totally do a Button Bros stream on another day. Button Bros show stream.
Totally.
Or Button Bros show. And yeah, because I know that we're trying to keep the craziness. We're trying to keep a lid on it for How to Draw Comics, but we'll get back into the Button Bros show soon enough. Don't worry. For now, though, it's been over 2 hours, and I want to wrap this up before I can't anymore. My voice is completely gone.
Okay, so, well, NPC Oasis asked if it was going to be a comic of color, and no.
It's all black and white. See, that's what I like about it. It's makes it all the more scary when it's in black and white. It's like a Eraserhead or the Human Centipede 3, you know?
Well, I wanted it, to have
or 2.
that.
Human Centipede 2, maybe.
I wanted to have that, like, vintage, dark, dirty, dingy, like, look.
It looks creepy. It looks like a nightmare.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I don't know how you can expect people to walk away from this book feeling happy.
That's why I changed that's why I amended my answer to include satisfaction as opposed to just like, I'm so happy with everything that has just occurred. Like, being satisfied at what they have just read.
Well, every editor needs an editor, so maybe you can hire me as your editor.
I don't want to offend you.
Excuse me. That man's head was clearly cut right off at the top, like a slice of ham.
You can
flapping over at the sides.
I'll consider the image editing, but you're not gonna do my like word editing.
No, okay. Deal.
No.
I've never been good
Pastor
with
Jack
words.
says he got work done. Nice. That's cool.
That's great. Pastor Jack keeping us on track.
That is what he could go with. If you want, I can show one more page before we
Show
go.
me one more page, and then we'll wrap it up. This is the climax of this stream right here. Let's do it.
All right. And again, this is all, I've never shown full pages before, so I am at the mercy of all of my bakers. This one is almost done. There's a couple more details to do, but and also the lettering. What I'm gonna do with the lettering is every character, much like in Sandman, every character is going to have their own like font, but also their own design as far as what the bubble looks like.
Nice. That's cool.
So it's all kind of like placeholders.
Yeah.
This is Eggbeater has gone to the hardware store to pick up his weld, so that he can, weld and good, so that he can create in his workshop his tools of the trade.
Custom made egg beaters.
Just one egg beater, but yes.
Well, you never know. He might have a backup there.
Oh, our pictures are over the bottom of it.
Oh, let me get those off for you. There you go.
Nice.
Ah, there he is. He's building them.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. I really love that panel with the close-up shot of his face and the big scar running down his eye.
Yeah.
That looks great. Lots of character.
And again, this was just another thing that like I let my artist kind of do his thing. Like he knew and he just made that. And he's got like this hat on, so you can't really like see what he looks like because he's in public. He's got to sort of hide. The shopkeep makes sort of like a snarky remark. But he's ultimately he's dark but jovial fellow.
For sure.
But again, he's got nothing to lose, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. This is going to be a great book, and to everybody watching, I highly encourage you to check it out. Have a look at the campaign page. If you'd like a scare, a thrill, a good beating with wonderful storytelling by Ali Sanguis and horrifying visuals by, what's your artist's name?
My artist's name is Vinny Scatina.
Oh, that's a kick-ass name for an artist.
Vinny?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a tattoo artist.
Ah, I can see that. Very nice.
And he's on Twitter as well. I think his Twitter is Scatina Vinny, Scatena, Vinny with a Y.
He'd be the guy to go to if you want an egg beater tattoo.
Oh my gosh. If somebody gets an egg beater tattoo,
wouldn't that be pretty amazing? That'd be cool. What if they did it just to impress you? You'd have to have a better reaction than that.
I would hope that someone got a tattoo because they liked something and like really believed in it.
Of course.
That would be more impressive than, Allie, I got this tattoo for you.
Look at this giant egg beater I tattooed all over my forehead.
Whoa. Yeah. I would be like, why?
Some people do crazy things.
I know it's good, but why? Like, elucidate to me.
Man, I'd feel a little bit bad if someone tattooed Kozor across their forehead.
What
have I done to this person?
What about if I got like a sexy Borok like on my arm?
That'd be cool.
just like, I don't know, flexing or something.
That would actually look cool, so I wouldn't feel sorry for you. I mean, like, this is very awesome. Good
Yay!
decision.
Awesome.
All right. So again, Egg Beater, we got a link to it in the description below. Be sure to check it out. Let's watch the trailer. And
Are we gonna watch all of them or just the trailer?
oh, how many are there?
Technically, there's a trailer and then there's that. And then
Oh.
there's a thing with all the magnets, but
You know what? Let's watch these two.
okay. That way everyone gets to see the puns.
A good baker.
Can you hear that okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Whoops. I'll just make it big here.
A good baker isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Eric Hatcher is serving up vengeance, one slice at a time. The Punisher mixes with Gordon Ramsay in this deliciously horrifying slasher comic. Eric Hatcher's family is slaughtered, his bakery ruined, his body and mind broken, but he still has his hunger for revenge. This is no joke.
I like that end shot. I feel like if there's a movie of Egg Beater, that's exactly what he's going to look like.
Do you know what's hilarious about that?
What?
That's just some of the stock footage that is in the film program that I used.
All right.
I was like, oh, it kind of looks like him. I'll throw that in there. Yeah.
I think it's perfect. All right, let's take another look at the second video here.
Teen, 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 teen. Hello, boils and ghouls. It's your old pal, John Cusir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And tonight's terror tale I call What's Cooking? That's right, Eric. This is a special shout out just for you. I understand they call you Egg Beater. Yes, I know, because you're a cook or you like to bake. Actually, you're a baker. You know, there is the butcher, the baker, and the undertaker. That's a little different fairy tale than the one the others tell. But listen, Ali wanted to wish you one hell of a good time, you know, because you have a long life ahead of you, and an even longer death. Which means you have to enjoy each and every day, and of course, every night. Well, listen, someday we're going to have to get together and, exchange baking recipes. Have you tried my lady fingers? They're delicious, although milady was not so quick to part with them.
It's very terrifying. Very terrifying, that man. Scary. How did you get him to say that? What did you tell him? Oh, there's no sound coming through for you.
I was on mute because whenever I watch his thing, I just laugh the whole time. So,
Yeah.
like, I've watched it a million times and I still just laugh every time. It's so great. No, I just sent a thing saying that, Eric, we call him Egg Beater, and he likes puns, and he suffered a loss recently. So could you give him a pep talk? And he wrote all that stuff. He
that's
did
pretty
that. That's
cool.
all him. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I always wondered, how am I going to get one of these famous actors to promote Kozor? What do I say to them? Because do you know Shaggy 2 Dope from Insane Clown Posse is on Cameo?
I do know
I
that.
want to hit him up. Can you just say something cool about the Barton Bros or our comic books, or make a short rap maybe? I don't know.
Why Shaggy? I mean, he does better voices, but why him specifically?
He's great. Is Violent J on there?
I mean, yeah, they're both on there.
Oh, well,
but
that's pretty cool then. I want them both. I want them to riff off each other a little.
Is that just like you having a weird fascination with like the underbelly of Americana?
Shaggy, no, I was a huge fan of ICP as a teenager. I'm going down the Southern Trail. I'm going chicken hunting, chopping redneck chicken necks. I ain't saying nothing.
Shut the fuck up. You're fucking with me.
No, really.
Okay, which is your favorite album?
I really love the one with Evil Eye on it.
You were a huge fan.
Yeah, no, I was. It was the one with the green clown face coming out of the Jack in the Box.
Uh-huh.
The riddle box. That's what it was.
We should do an ICP karaoke night.
And it's for some reason these are the only songs that I know.
We should do an ICP karaoke.
I really didn't know what I was in for.
It would be fun.
I ring the doorbell, the door creaks open, and there it was, staring and scoping. The man's left eye, red, pink, and dripping. I was tripping. See ya. I ran home. I couldn't stop thinking about the eyeball blinking and winking. It looked yet not a damn thing like the other. Yeah, he thought I was full of it, but I'm a hardcore ICP. Well, I was. As an adult man, I mean.
An Aussie juggalo, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I bring out the worst in people right now.
No. I'm just bringing out my true colors. Yeah. I think I'm a great rapper. Yeah, I've almost remembered Eminem's I said, I'm sorry, mama. I never meant to hurt you.
I never meant to make you cry, but tonight I'm cleaning out my closet.
I take you back to 73 before I ever had a multi-platinum selling CD. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just embarrassing myself now, so we'll wrap it up here. It's got nothing to do with comic book anymore.
On my old YouTube channel, I did a cover of Miracles by ICP.
What's that? Oh, you did? See, Miracles, I don't know. That was a little after my time, my ICP time.
Well, yeah. It's a little known fact that I have done rap covers. So
oh my goodness.
This is getting real way spent.
All right, let's wrap this show up. I got to go cook a chicken pot pie. So Ali, congratulations on Egg Beater.
Thank you.
And I hope you have an amazing closeout, whether you begin your own stream in a moment, which I highly encourage people to just check out Ali's channel in general. She's got some great shows over there. It's always a good time. Ali Sanguis, that's what I input into YouTube to find her. So I'm sure the same will work for all of you out there watching now. What is the name of your channel? Is that it? Ali Sanguis?
Yeah.
Cool. And on Twitter, how do people find you on Twitter?
With
entertain,
or my @ as it were, as the kids say, my @ is just Ali Sanguis, ALISANGUIS. I thought it would be
Fantastic.
floating up by my face, but it's not. But that's how I wrote it.
Yeah, that's my fault. I actually am not sure how to get that back up now. I'm using Restream.
Yeah, I see that.
Restream. Restream's good. I enjoy Restream because it doesn't flash white light against my face and completely blow me out. It's got this nice blue emanating off the screen. So
That is nice.
yeah, white, just pure white screens ruin the lighting for me. That's the reasoning behind that. Anyway, Ali, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Again, I'm sorry that it took so long to get you on here. I wanted to do this with you earlier. It just didn't happen until now. So best of luck with Egg Beater, and to the chat, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We really do appreciate you, and it's so fun to be hanging out with you again. Can't wait to do more. More streams, more interviews, more drawing tutorials here on howtodrawcomics.net. Ali, final words? What would you like to leave the audience with?
I would like to leave the audience with my thanks for being as excited about Egg Beater as I am, and for hanging out this whole time and listening to all this, just
lots of tangents
stuff. We've just been talking. This has been really a good conversation this whole time.
Yeah, I know how to get them going. I feel like we also should give ourselves a pat on the back because we kept fairly on track. It was fairly Egg Beater focused.
Yeah,
like
you had good questions that nobody had asked before. So
oh, really?
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. All right, awesome. Well, until next time, everybody, be sure to check out www.howtodrawcomics.net, by the way, for more drawing tips, tricks, and tutorials. Got a bunch of written tutorials over there, video tutorials. Got a podcast as well. And when you're ready to take your comic art skill set to the next level, be sure to check out our premium section of courses. We've got a bunch of wonderfully talented instructors, equally good at drawing as they are in instructing. People like David Finch, Trent Kanuga, Robert Marzullo, Ed Foychuk, myself as well, and a bunch of others. I'll let you do the exploring of howtodrawcomics.net on the site yourself, though. And until next time, look after yourselves. Keep on drawing, keep on creating, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.